Hello everyone, and welcome to my channel, Reading Little Blue Books Out Loud. This just happens to be a little blue book. It is Little Blue Book number 493, and it is titled New Discoveries in Science, written by Hereward Carrington Ph.D., and that is H-E-R-E-W-A-R-D, Hereward. Now this is New Discoveries in Science according to 1920s United States and America and the world. So this won't be 2020 science. This will be 1920s science. Alright, so let's get started. New Discoveries in Science. Why do you cry? At first sight, it might appear that we inwardly cry because we are sad. But this is by no means the case. We cry because we are hurt, physically or mentally, or because of joy or excessive happiness, or because of any tender emotion, or when hearing beautiful music, or seeing some splendid action of bravery, or for many other reasons. Like laughter, crying may thus be due to various causes. Some of these are purely physiological, due to sensory impressions or congestion of the circulation. Thus, smelling onions will induce a flow of tears. A defensive mechanism to protect the eyes. A foreign body, an insect, or a particle of dust in the eye will induce the same result. Again, tears are protective. Coughing, vomiting, strong effort will also cause the eyes to water. And here again, crying is brought about by physical means alone. Weeping is usually due to some strong psychic intonation, however, such as some powerful emotion. But this must find expression through the mechanism of the body, and this consists in a stimulation of the tear glands, situated just above the eyes, whose normal duty is to supply just enough fluid to keep the eyes moistened. Excessive stimulation of these glands will cause a flow of tiny drops of water, which run across the eyes and into the nose. But if an excessive quantity of water be produced at once, they overflow the eyelids and fall onto the cheeks. Crying. This sudden increase in the lacrimal secretion depends upon the increase in the pressure of the blood. This, in turn, is increased by the emotions of joy or tenderness. The appearance of tears would be the natural consequence. Tears produce relief by lessening this congestion within the head. They are a safety valve on the part of nature. We cry to relieve this internal congestion. Why do you frown? If you are worried, anxious, angry, you knit the brows into a frown. And the same is true if you are trying to recall some lost thought. Why should the same outward expression be the symbol of so many different emotions? There being so many varying emotions, it seems strange, at first sight, that the frown should represent them all. Why is this? Why do we frown on these various occasions? A frown is due physiologically to the bringing together and lowering of the eyebrows and the muscles just above them. This is accomplished by the corrugator muscles, whose duty it is to contract the brows. Now, a man may be working along for several hours on an abstruse problem and never contract his brows. Suddenly he does so. He has struck something, and the word is blurred. He has struck something along the line of thought which is particularly difficult or pleasing to him. It is the occurrence of this emotion which has induced the frown. Anything which induces an unpleasant emotion, therefore, may induce a frown. If the food is not good, a man may frown at his wife. If the milk is too cold, a baby will frown before crying. During intense thought, the brows are only contracted when an idea or a word or mode of expression is lacking. The subconscious irritation irritation is then expressed in a frown. Another cause has probably strengthened the habit of frowning, that is the endeavor to see more clearly at a distance. Short-sighted people often contract the eyes and the forehead in an effort to see with greater distinctness. This action has, in fact, given rise to the term myopia, from the Greek. Contraction of the brow also tends to shut out an excess of light, which would also be an impediment to clear seeing. Frowning, therefore, serves several good purposes and may be brought about by several different causes. Why do you smile? You know that when you meet a stranger, or even an old friend, and you meet him, your impulse is to smile as you extend your hand. This is a smile of recognition of good feeling and affection. It has become instinctive with us, and we do it without even thinking of its origin or significance. But there must be some natural reason for this habit. What is it? Charles Darwin first pointed out that the muscles used in smiling were also the muscles used in snarling. You have often seen two dogs who are doubtful of each other approach gradually, pulling back their lips in a half snarl as though uncertain of their reception by the newcomer. It indicated that the dog was ready to fight if necessary, and was a sign of warning to beware. Now, when one smiles, it is probably an evolution of the snarl, which was originally the sign of defense. We smile when meeting strangers because our animal ancestors snarled at them. As monkeys do today, when any stranger approaches them or attempts to handle them or pick them up. This can be observed in the case of any pet monkey. However, there is doubtless more to the smile than this. We smile, it is true, even after we are assured of their friendship, and we smile when we say goodbye. We would not naturally snarl under these circumstances, so the smile is also a physical expression of happiness. A half laugh of gladness, of joy. It is also an expression of amusement. The smile lifts the muscles of the face, keeping it young and fresh, and free from wrinkles, and has a beneficial effect upon it. Just as worry and gloom cause the features to droop and the corners of the mouth to sag, for these reasons it is safe to say, smile, smile, smile. Why do you blush? The blush of maidenly modesty has often been the theme of the poets and the novelists. It is an indication of timidity or bashfulness. Girls and young women are particularly subject to blushing, and a pretty speech, a compliment, a personal allusion will bring a blush to the cheeks as readily as will shame or anger. Intense emotions of this character will usually bring about a blush. Needless to say, a blush is, superficially, a sudden rush of blood to the face and neck, filling the smaller blood vessels with arterial blood. For if it were venous blood, we should blush blue. This instantaneous control of the circulation by a sudden emotion in itself is in itself of remarkable interest. It must be brought about by sudden nervous impulses, checking and accelerating the blood supply to the face. Hack Tuke asserts that the blush of shame begins in the neck and ears, that of anger begins with the eyes, and that of love in the forehead. Darwin attempted to account for blushing by supposing that a person who thinks that others are looking at him directs his attention to his own face, hence results a flow of blood towards that part. Such explanations are now rejected. The experiments of Mosso and others on the circulation of the blood seem to point to the view taken by the psychologist Wundt, who contended that the normal checks to the blood supply were temporarily suspended as compensation for the accelerated pulsations of the heart produced by emotion. On this view, the emotions of shame, anger, etc., cause you to blush because the nerves which control the blood supply in your face are temporarily inhibited. More blood to these parts reacts in consequence. Why do you turn pale? When an ordinary individual thinks he suddenly sees a ghost, he turns pale, his hair stands on end, and he trembles from head to foot. Often he breaks out into a cold perspiration and may even faint. All these symptoms are well known. There is only one which many persons would refuse to believe, putting it down to a subjective hallucination. That is the hair standing on end. This is actually the case. However, at such times, for attached to each hair is a tiny muscle, which shortens under the influence of this emotion, and as it shortens it pulls the hair upright, just as a beam might be pulled upright by a rope. Thus causing it actually to stand on end. The face turns pale under the stress of fear, because the blood vessels under the skin are suddenly emptied of blood due to nervous control of the so-called vasomotor system. This blood is emptied into the great blood vessels in the interior of the body, which rapidly expand to receive it. A new distribution of the blood takes place in which the surface of the body is left without it, while the interior of the body is filled instead. This does not only happen in the case of fear, for sudden anger may also make the face blanch. Furthermore, the face alone is not bereft of blood in this manner. The whole surface of the body is affected, so that it may become pale and anemic. For the time being, when this sudden withdrawal of blood extends to the brain, and subject becomes faint and may even lose consciousness. Facial pallor, therefore, is just the reverse of blushing, and curiously enough, may be due to the same emotions, and succeed each other in waves. Why do you keep warm? There are two types of creatures in the world, the cold-blooded and the warm-blooded. Frogs, snakes, etc. are examples of the former. Cats and dogs of the latter category. Lizards, snails, and fish are cold-blooded. Lions, tigers, horses are warm-blooded. Man is also a warm-blooded animal. There is this remarkable distinction between them, that whereas cold-blooded creatures take on the temperature of their environment, whatever that may be, warm-blooded animals always remain at approximately the same temperature, no matter what the external heat or cold may be. Thus, if a frog is placed in a temperature of 40 degrees Fahrenheit, he will soon be of that temperature also. Cold-blooded creatures may even be frozen stiff, and yet revive when thawed out. Above a certain temperature of heat, however, they all die. In the case of warm-blooded animals, however, the case is quite different. Thus, man's temperature in health always remains the same, about 98 degrees Fahrenheit, no matter whether he is sweltering in the tropics or exploring the icy regions of the polar seas. His bodily temperature remains the same. As soon as he dies, however, his corpse assumes the temperature of the surrounding air. The constant temperature of the human body, therefore, is somehow dependent upon life. Nature has provided a number of mechanisms and adjustments to keep the temperature normal. In very cold weather, the skin contracts to prevent too large a volume of blood from reaching the surface and becoming colder. In hot weather, the pores of the skin open, perspiration pours forth, evaporation takes place, and this serves to cool the body. The heat of the body is maintained by combustion, burning up the food we eat, and if too much is yielded, the body disposes of it. But just why nature has decided upon the exact degree of bodily heat we possess is as yet an unsolved mystery. It seems, however, the one best suited for our purposes. Why do you feel hungry? I feel hungry because I need food, or because I want to eat, would be the usual answer to this question. And yet a moment's thought would show us that these are no answers at all. Why do you want to eat? Because you are hungry. We are in what is termed a vicious cycle of reasoning at once, in which we rush around like a dog chasing its own tail and getting nowhere. What is the real cause of hunger? In a certain sense, of course, it may be said to be a general expression of craving on the part of the body for food, in order to repair the wastes due to exercise, etc. In one sense, hunger is a general condition. The body cries for solid food, just as thirst is the bodily cry for liquid of some sort. The tissues need to be fed, and this cry finds its local expression in the stomach when it is empty. But we must be careful to define just what we mean by hunger. There is a true hunger and a false hunger, known to physiologists as habit hunger. This often appears at meal times, just from habit, no matter whether the body really needs food at all or not. This is not true hunger or appetite, for if a glass of water be taken and the mind diverted, this craving will soon disappear, which would be impossible if true hunger were being manifested. As soon as the stomach is really empty, slight muscular contractions begin to take place. These pass like waves or ripples across the stomach and increase in frequency and violence the longer food is withheld. These contractions are what we feel and know as the pangs of hunger. They are the local cry of the stomach for food. We feel this craving in the stomach and also bodily craving. Together they make up the set of symptoms known as hunger, and it is because of them that we feel hungry. And I think I'll stop there for part 1, and we will see you in part 2.